This is Frank Islam, Chairman and CEO of FY Investment Group and your host of Washington Current Review, where we interview leading voices from business and politics that impact you, the viewer. Today, our guest is a great comedian. He's really good. His name is Dan Nainan. Dan, welcome to our show.
Thank you, Mr. Islam. It's an honor to be here. I appreciate it.
I know you took you came over here. We appreciate that very much. As I understand, your father is from India. So tell me a little bit about your background in terms of mom and dad.
My father's from India, specifically from Kerala, and my mom is from Japan. So I tell people I'm not Nepali.
You're not Nepali.
They think I'm Nepali, right? And I also say, I get my sushi from 7-Eleven, so, which is I.
And where do you get the Indian stuff then? From where?
The Indian stuff, you mean?
Yeah, the food.
Oh, well, that's from home. I mean,
from home?
My whole life. In fact, my mother is a fire breather. She developed the taste for mango pickles.
Oh, right? Wow. Right. Mango pickles, that's pretty hot.
Right, so we have Indian food, Japanese food, and some American food.
That's the face of America that you represent.
And those are the two best restaurants in America, Indian and Japanese.
Very good. Right. How did you get started in stand-up comedy?
Well, it's an interesting, unusual story. My job was to speak on stage with Andy Grove, the chairman of Intel.
Yes.
Worked at Intel headquarters. And we would travel all over the world and do technical demonstrations. And I was terrified of speaking, and I said, I've got to do something to get over this fear. So first I went to Toastmasters to become a better speaker, but that wasn't quite terrifying enough because it was just me and 12 other computer nerds, right, in the room. I thought, I got to do something really scary. And
it's scary.
Very scary, yes.
And that's a comedy.
And I decided to take a comedy class.
Oh, okay, so that's how you got into it.
Right, and the comedy
class.
And
how long have you been doing this?
About 10 years now.
So you're kind of a pro.
Well, you're always getting better and developing, but I'd say, Russell Peters is a pro. I'm sort of a...
So you associate with Russell Peters. Tell me a little bit about that.
I've toured with...
You toured with him, right?
He saw me perform in New York, and
Tell the audience who Russell Peters is.
Well, Russell Peters is the #1 Indian comedian in the world, touring all over and blazing the trail for all of us. Makes about $30 million a year.
That's a lot of dough.
Almost as much as you.
And not really.
$30 million a year touring the world doing comedy. It's amazing. And he is, now I do a little bit different.
So you do a warm-up for him?
I've warmed up with him all over, yes.
That's pretty good.
My niche is I do clean comedy.
And what's the difference between clean comedy instead of a raunchy one?
Well, I think I prefer doing clean.
What is the raunchy one?
Dirty jokes.
No, you're not into that.
No, I like to say my comedy's above the neck, not below the waist, above the neck. And it makes you think. And, there is a market for dirty comedy, but I think that by doing clean, I get to do things like perform for the president or the mayor or Donald Trump, etc., which most comedians can't because they're doing dirty jokes. So,
I heard you impressions of George W. Bush and President Bill Clinton. I want you to tell, give us the about George W. Bush and Bill Clinton. Which one you want to go first?
Well, I'll make it a surprise. Now, I want to say that I really am hoping that we're going to have a female president in 2016. And I'm a little biased. I don't want to say who it is. And as far as George Bush, now I was not aware of September 11th until September 11th. And somebody asked me how I feel about Roe versus Wade, and I told them if you're in New Orleans, row, wade, swim, whatever you have to do to get out of there. That says a little bit better on stage when there's an audience laughing.
Are you good at Obama's impression?
I'm still working on it. I prefer to do that.
I understand you performed for him.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about that.
It was at a gala last year at the Ritz-Carlton, and it was amazing. And
What was the occasion?
It was a gala, and he was such a nice. He seemed like a down-to-earth person who happens to be president.
He's a down-to-earth guy.
I'm sure you've met him a lot, right?
Yes, I have.
Right. And he was wonderful, and I got him on video. I gave you the video, and you can play it of his comments. He said that I was hilarious, and he says I'm the world's only Indian-Japanese comedian.
World's Indian-Japanese.
World's only. No, not worst.
Okay.
World's only Indian-Japanese comedian.
So you still can you say anything? How do you imitate President Obama? Just a small one.
The day after the election of 2008, they caught a man trying to climb the White House fence. And they said, President Bush, get back here, you still have 2 months left. It still needs a little bit of work. And
Yeah.
again, if there were an audience here laughing, it'd be a lot more effective.
Do you imitate his eloquence? He's a very eloquent speaker.
I need to work on it a little bit more to
Okay,
be
good.
truthful with you. Yeah,
What
he's an
are-
eloquent speaker when he has a teleprompter. So,
He's a great speaker.
yeah.
He's very eloquent.
Yeah, very eloquent.
He's
yes.
a great leader of this nation.
Yes, indeed.
And his story can only happen in America.
I'm a fan.
Just like your story can only happen in
a fan.
America.
I got to show you something here. I've got a Barack Obama Metro card.
You got a President Obama Metro
It's
card.
limited edition, right?
A limited edition.
This is from Metro.
Oh,
DC.
what a wonderful gift you have received.
See, they call it Smart Trip, but I call it. It's a hidden meaning. It's Smart Rip.
Smart rip.
Right, or they rip you up. No, I'm just kidding. But this is very hard to get, so I'm very proud of the Obama Metro card.
So, Dan, you have been successful. Now, if some people watching in the audience who wants to get into, especially the young generations, who wants to get into entertainment, what's your advice?
Well, I get this a lot. Young people say, I want to be a filmmaker or a musician or a comedian, and my parents want me to be, a doctor, lawyer, finance, IT, engineering. And I said, I think there's a good compromise between the two. You can't just quit your job or graduate from high school and then become a filmmaker or a comedian or a musician. I think you have to do this in the evenings and weekends. You have a day job and you make money, and a respectable job and make money. And I think a lot of people tend to waste a lot of time. People say, I don't have time to do this job, this creation. But the average American watches 32 hours of television a week.
32
32
hours a
of
week.
TV.
So when do you work?
Yeah, I know, exactly. That's like another job. Then the average American goes out and says, well, it's Friday and everyone's getting drunk, so I have to go out and get drunk. You waste the whole evening, the whole next day is shot because of hangover. Then you rinse and repeat, do the same thing Sunday. So I just found you 70 hours a week. If you're really dedicated, you can like M. Night, you can make the movies at night when everyone's out drinking and whatever. He started when he was in his teens. And I think that you just keep doing this at night and weekends, you get good enough, and then once you start making money, then you can leave your job and do what you really love.
So you could be a film star, you could be a film producer, you could be a comedian,
This
you
is
could
America.
be Johnny Carson.
Yeah, this is America. You can do anything. And here's the thing.
You can do anything.
Yeah, traditionally there's been a barrier, I think, to minorities and South Asians. But right now, South Asians...
There is no barrier or boundary. There's
right
no
now-
bigotry either.
I think, well, there has been, and there always is, racism. But right now, for South Asians, there's so much talent in the South Asian pool. And you have Mindy Kaling, and you have the Miss America, or Universe, or whatever, I don't know what it was, United States, whatever. And you have, you have singers and actors, and Asif Manvi and Aziz Ansari and Russell Peters. There's a huge market. And when
So Russell Peters have Indian origin?
Yes.
I did
Of
not
course.
know that.
Yeah, of course. He's from Calcutta, of Anglo-Indian origin.
Anglo-Indian name.
Anglo-Indian,
So
yeah.
he's obviously embodies the Christian faith from India.
Yeah, and so if you
combine all these talent, there's a lot of
There's a
talented
lot of
people in
talent,
South Asian community.
and it's unbelievable, right? And now
So the new generation can take a cue from that.
exactly. And when I go to my agent seminars in New York, they're always saying the same thing. Right now, I'm looking for South Asian talent. It's number one. I mean, they're looking for us, and a lot of us are too busy being doctors and whatever. I did a movie called Last Airbender with M. Night and Dev Patel in Philadelphia a few years ago, and we needed 300 people for the Fire Nation Army. We needed 300 Indians. Where are you going to find 300 unemployed Indians in Philadelphia?
There is not that many.
Right?
Yeah.
They were desperate for Indian actors. So right now is the time for Indians, I'm telling you.
So this is the golden opportunity for them.
Yeah, I mean, people, if anyone wants to maybe get into showbiz, I can show them how to get started in acting. Yeah.
And how do they get hold of you? Dan?
ComedianDan.com is my website.
Okay.
Comedian Dan.
And
yeah.
they
My
can
phone
okay.
number is there. And I mean, I help people all the time. Hey, this is how you get your headshots and go to these seminars. You can make $50,000, $100,000 in one day from a commercial for the residuals. It's unbelievable.
As I understand, you have a good relationship with Steve Wozniak, who was the co-founder
Co-founder of Apple.
Stephen
yeah.
Jobs, with Stephen Jobs, who I admire and appreciate and respect
He's
a lot.
amazing. Yeah.
And Stephen Jobs. So how do you develop this relationship? And I understand you also did some filming for the Apple commercial. Tell me a little bit about those things.
Okay, well, I met Steve Wozniak. I did an event last year in January called the Apple Investors Conference. He was a keynote speaker, along with Walter Isaacson, who wrote Steve Jobs.
Who wrote Steve Jobs' biography.
And Steve saw me, and he was just laughing and laughing and laughing. And you'll see on the video, he just gave me the most wonderful testimony.
So you brought the video?
I've got the video.
So we will air those videos after the show.
And then when I was in the Valley again, I asked Steve if I could take him to dinner. And Steve's a very simple guy, kind of like John Madden. He prefers to eat at places with laminated menus. You know, like, and so we went to Outback Steakhouse, and we exchanged gadgets. I gave him a thing called TV Be Gone, which will turn off any television, and he gave me an Annoyatron and a couple of gadgets that put random characters on. I mean, the practical jokes. The wonderful, wonderful person, human being. He flies around the world speaking, like me. But
he's a great motivational speaker.
He's amazing. Of course, he makes way more than I do in speaking fees. But
that's sort of understatement.
Well, he's famous. And then as far as the Apple commercial, that was
tell me a little bit about that. Tell the audience about that.
In 2009, I went to audition, and I thought, there's no way I'm going to get this. It's a major commercial, and the next day, my agent says, "You got it."
Oh, wow.
And I was wearing bubble wrap, and I brought the commercial on the video.
Oh,
well,
that's wonderful.
And it was amazing, and I had no idea it was going to be, because Steve Jobs himself would decide on every commercial. And I didn't think my commercial was that good.
So this happened when Steve Jobs was alive?
It was in 2009.
Wow.
Because he, of course, he controls everything. He would decide what commercials.
So he gets to that nitty-gritty detail he used to get it?
Oh yeah, he would decide what commercials.
Have you ever met Steve Jobs?
No, I would love to say I did. I wish.
What a great American he was.
Yeah, he was. But then I was in Chennai on tour in India doing comedy, and I got an email from my sister saying, "I just saw your commercial on the NFL opener." They played it everywhere. And you get residuals every time it shows. It's wonderful. It's wonderful.
So can you make a lot of money being a comedian?
You can make good money, but the thing is...
You can earn more than a living.
Oh, yeah, well, most comedians will make nothing for years. And it took 2 years for me to make my first $5 at a show. And I got $1. I had to stand in Times Square and hand out flyers. I got $1 for every person that showed up.
So you're doing pretty good now?
I can't complain. I mean, people always want more money and more money. I mean, I'm happy with what, it'd be great to be like Russell Peters and make $30 million, but I don't know. I feel very, very blessed to have what I have, and it's not that much, but I get to travel the world. It's a lot of fun.
Have you also done your comedy beside United States and Canada, other places? You mentioned about India. Where else have you gone?
I've gone to Canada, a lot of shows in Canada, all over East and West. I've done Dubai, 5 shows in Dubai, 1 in Qatar. These are mostly for South Asian audiences, by the way. Trinidad, which is
a very large Indian population. Yeah. So it's about 45%, 50%.
Done a number of shows in Singapore.
Singapore?
A couple in Malaysia. And then, let's see, I did a Pakistani wedding in Istanbul.
Pakistani wedding,
beautiful. Did South Africa, Dar es Salaam twice, Tanzania.
That's in Tanzania, which has a large Indian population.
Large Indian, right. And Durban, South Africa has more Indians than anywhere in the world except maybe New Jersey. And by the way, do you know the mayor of New Jersey until recently was not Indian, it was Korean. Jun Choi. Nobody Indian wanted the job, so they outsourced it to another Asian. So I've done the UK a lot. There's a lot of Indians over there.
There are a lot of
Netherlands.
In our parts of the United Kingdom, I just concentrate on London.
Well, I've done London and Birmingham. We did a whole tour of India.
Which is a large...
Scotland, I've done Ireland. Where else? I've done Mexico.
Mexico doesn't have a large Indian population.
That was not an Indian show. But I did a show in Tokyo.
You did a Tokyo?
For IIT, believe it or not.
IIT, this is one of the...
400 Indians.
Yeah. Wow.
IIT, yeah.
Oh, so they had something with this is Indian Institute of Technology you're talking about.
Exactly.
So they had something over there in Japan?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, there's a big, well, not big, it's 400 people, but they have a club with 400 people in Tokyo.
So what's next for you?
Well, I'm continuing.
Are you going to continue on this path?
I'm going to continue to tour, do more television, I hope. One thing I really want to do is I want to open the country's first all-clean comedy club.
Clean comedy club.
No, all clean.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're only clean comedy, where you can go, people of all ages, and not be picked on and not be made fun of, and where there'll be no dirty jokes. So you can bring your mother as well as your children. And we're looking for space. I'd like to ideally open it in Bethesda, because...
That's where you're from.
I'm from...
That's where you grew up in Bethesda, Maryland.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Well, I'm from Indiana, but I grew up in D.C. area. But I would really like to open the country's first clean comedy club. And believe it or not, you can find clean comedy. You can have one comedian every week and never repeat for a year.
Wow.
All clean.
And where would you get all these comedians?
Getting the comedian's the easiest thing in the world. The tough part is finding the space and renting it and then renovating and all that stuff.
What about training people?
That'll be easy. That's the easy part. And getting the talent. Club comedians work for very cheap. So the talent costs will be very low and the margin's very high. I mean, alcohol is 80, 90%, right? And I don't drink, but I already have a liquor license in Montgomery County. So.
Wow.
So
do you want to train people with that also in this comedy club that you're trying to establish?
You mean train comedians?
Yeah, train comedians.
Well, we'll have. I mean, most comedy clubs do have a class, and so I'd love to have a class. I may not have time to teach it, but a class where people can learn comedy and also about acting and getting into television and all this.
So you got a good plan here.
I hope so, and I'd love to webcast someone. I'd like to be the first comedy club to webcast them on the internet.
Wow.
And so on. So I've got to put together a business plan. I need help with that, and that's not my strong suit.
Well, you're a comedian, so that's not your strong suit.
Maybe you can find me someone to do.
Sure, I can do that. Tell me some of the impressions that you did. You told me a little bit about the Clinton. You did a little bit of George W. Bush. What about Bloomberg and some others?
I've done.
Can you share with the audience?
Well, one of my favorite one is, of course, Arnold Schwarzenegger, the former governor
of California.
Right. But I actually have some reels on my YouTube channel they can see, and I'm doing all kinds of impressions like Jordan. It's better when.
How about speaking like an Indian speak here in this country? Can you do that?
Well,
the way they speak English.
Well, this is something that I've heard my whole life. My father, when he's on the phone, he combines Malayalam and English. November check bounce chedilio.
November check bounce
chedilio.
What did that mean?
It means that your check from November bounced.
Oh, okay. So he combines his own native language with English.
Right, it's very, very common.
It's very common.
Right. So I've heard this accent my whole life, and it's funny. I mean, my job is essentially making fun of Indians, but Indians, are the best. Have the best sense of humor and love to laugh at themselves, right? My East Asian side, they're a little uptight and like, I don't know about these jokes, but the Indians are they're wonderful audiences, and of course they all speak English, and they're all over the world, and they're growing in size and population, and they're the most successful minority group in America. I mean, it's a perfect time to be in this market. It's fantastic.
So can you imitate Japanese because of your mom?
Well, this is a true story. We were driving to the airport, my whole family. We saw these cows grazing in the distance, and so my father says, "Now there is a word that can have a lot of different meanings. Graze, for example, a cow can graze, and then I say, or you can be grazed by a bullet, and then my mother says, or it's a kind of a donut."
It's a kind of a donut.
And she thought, she really thought grazed. It's glazed, right? She really thought that it was glazed donuts. So I guess you had to be there, and it's again funnier in front of an audience. But did you get that, or
yeah,
you did? Okay.
I didn't quite catch it, but I did understand what your father said, but I couldn't quite catch what your mom said.
Well, my mother said she thought that a donut. She thought it meant a grazed donut when it's really a glazed donut.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Oh.
Right, so.
What that had to do with the cows grazing in the cornfield?
You'll have to watch the comedy video.
Oh, okay. So we have to watch it.
My father said, in other words, the word graze can have a lot of different meanings. Like you can be grazed by a bullet, or cows can graze. And then my mom said it's a kind of donut, which she meant glazed. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now I got it.
Okay.
So beside the
You
Japanese,
didn't laugh.
yeah, I got it. I laughed. I was going to laugh, but it took me a little bit of time to figure this out. Now,
it's hot in here.
Explain to me, Dan. If I interview you 4 years from now, what would be Dan Nainan at that time?
Well, I guess I'll look like I lost weight.
You still have the comedy club in Bethesda, Maryland.
I'm hoping to have the club, yeah. I would love to have the club, and I love traveling, maybe be traveling a little bit less, and be able to settle down and have a dog and a cat.
Have a dog and a cat, but not be married.
That's right.
A lot of dog and cats?
I'd love to have one dog and one cat, but I'd love to have comedy club that's clean. People can go and have good, clean fun. And so if you know someone who can help me with a business plan, I need help.
I may do that myself.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Dan, for coming.
Thank you very kindly. Thank you.
I really appreciated that. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And good luck to you.
Thank you. It's an honor to be interviewed, and thank you for interviewing me, Mr. Islam. I really appreciate it.
You're most welcome.
Thank you kindly.
That is our show. This is Frank Islam wishing you a great week. And thank you very much for watching.
Give it up for my good friend. He just performed for Hillary Clinton.
My name is Dan Nainan. Thank you very much.
Thank you all very, very much.
Dan is hysterical. I don't know. I mean, I'm a better comedian than he is, but he's hysterical.
Dan's a really funny guy, not only in real life but on stage. Just someone who has such a diverse background, and to bring that to stage is really wonderful. And so, I love him.
Dan introduced me here at the Wisdom 2.0 conference, but he didn't do my accent. He was funny.
Dan is hilarious. World's only Indian-Japanese comedian.
Comedian Dan Nainan.
Laughter is the best medicine in the world. And even the short time that I was out there during your speech, I was just laughing at every single joke. Every line. So good for you. Yeah.
Hello, I'm a Mac. And I'm a PC. And here at PC Innovations Lab.
Wait, PC Innovations Lab?
Well, you know how you have your patented MagSafe cord that pops out anytime someone trips over it?
Sure.
Well, we're protecting PCs with this new air-cushioned enclosure.
It's bubble wrap.
I love Dan. If you're Indian, you really get it. Dude.
You may have seen him on NBC's Last Comic Standing. This guy's very good. Everyone, please welcome Daniel Nainan.
Give it up for my good friend, Dan Nainan.